Jury selection is underway in New York City for the criminal trial against the Trump Organization.
The company faces 9 charges, including conspiracy, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records. So CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge is joining us now to break down these charges. Boy, oh boy, it's good to have Catherine here because every week there's like another reminder about another case. But this one is not civil, it's criminal. There are more than a dozen lawsuits against the former president. But this is not against him. This is against his company. What makes this one stand out?
That's right. Well, those are some of the key points, Anne-Marie. This is a criminal prosecution. It's against the Trump Organization, so it's business, real estate entity, and not the former president himself. The charges, as you mentioned, are mostly fraud and tax evasion. In addition, this is about undeclared income for employees, business perks, basically, paid apartments, drivers, private school tuition. And the key witness here, or star witness, is the former chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg. He pleaded guilty in August to a number of tax-related crimes, and he is expected to testify as part of an agreement he made with the prosecution.
So, Catherine, is Weisselberg a cooperating witness?
That's a great question, Vlad. I would describe him as a limited cooperation witness. As part of his agreement, his guilty plea, he's going to do some prison time and have several years of probation, but he will also have to testify in this trial about the business perks he received, which the IRS considers income that was not declared. So an apartment, private school tuition, in addition to the use of a driver, it comes to about $2 million in undeclared income. But his testimony is not expected to go further than that, which is why I use the term limited cooperation as opposed to fully cooperating with prosecutors.
Well, here's the thing when a company or corporation faces criminal charges. I mean, it's rare that individuals actually sort of have to pay if there's a conviction. So what are the consequences if the Trump Organization is found guilty?
It's an excellent question, Emery. In this case, if there was a conviction, it would be a hefty fine, but that's really not where the significant damage comes. There could be a ripple effect here, and the finding in this criminal investigation could play into this larger investigation by the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, whose goal is to keep the Trump Organization shut out of business in New York State altogether, which would, in effect, cripple the organization. For their part, lawyers for the Trump Organization call this a selective or a politically motivated prosecution, though the judge in the criminal trial has made clear that they won't be able to use that argument at trial. They'll have to use what he calls real evidence and real data to back up their position.
Fascinating. Catherine Herridge, always here to provide clarity and light for us. We appreciate you. All right, let's continue talking about this. For more analysis, let's bring in Melissa Gomez. She is the senior jury consultant and president of MMG Jury Consulting, LLC in Philadelphia. Melissa, there has been some talk about the prosecution and defense looking out for stealth jurors. Explain what that means.
That's a term that means jurors who are on the panel and are trying to get on the panel because they have another message that they want to send. So those may be jurors who during jury selection may not be particularly forthcoming about their biases because they actually want to serve in order to influence the outcome.
So, Melissa, I think I want people to sort of understand, I think, what your firm, the type of service that your firm would offer. You're not doing it here. But sometimes in cases, there are separate people brought in to help select the jury. That's their expertise, is tapping into the right kind of selection because, you know, the prosecution and the defense, they have a limited number of jurors that they can sort of scratch out. So they want to make sure that they don't mess things up. So what would you look for in jurors in a case like this?
So there are several things that we look for. I mean, first, there are some direct questions that we would advise counsel to ask. And some of that is also influenced by what the judge will allow us to ask. So the interesting thing about this case is that it is not a political case, but it has political implications. And it sounds like the judge has already determined and has already made clear that they will not allow the argument of politics to come into the case and stick just with the case facts. But that doesn't change the fact that the political implications of an outcome are going to be relevant. So one of the things that I would do is help the attorneys construct questions in order to get to the biases. So they likely will not be able to ask political orientation. That's actually something that you're typically not able to ask in any trial, but they may ask questions like, is there anything about the Trump organization or anyone affiliated with that Trump organization that would make it difficult for you, where you have strong feelings that would make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial? Now, that's where, jurors need to be forthcoming and honest about any concerns that they have about their ability to be fair. But sometimes other things that we're doing is looking for other information that's publicly available. So what jurors would put out there on their social media, what they're posting, if they have blogs, that is information that is available to each side of the case. And so odds are folks are going to be looking at that, looking at social media, seeing if there are inconsistencies between what the jurors are saying in the courtroom and what they're putting out about themselves and their opinions in the public domain.
That's fascinating.
Very
I didn't even know that was part of the process.
Me neither.
I thought it was just question asking.
Right.
That
is really remarkable.
Usually, but the age of the internet has changed everything.
Right.
So is the jury pool only folks that are living here in Manhattan? And if that is the case, how would that impact the case?
The interesting thing about Manhattan is that politically it is a blue venue, but Manhattan also has a lot of high-powered executives, has a lot of people in the financial realm. So it's going to depend on how people relate to the case. So, this isn't a case about politics, but really the overlay of politics is really what folks are paying attention to. But there's also going to be a good section of people from Manhattan who are in the financial realm, who work in executive positions, and who may relate to the executive levels of this organization. So it's really important for the lawyers to be looking at all of the relevant variables instead of, really focusing on just one.
Really interesting. Melissa Gomez, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.